The oldest planted grapes in the world were planted by the Natufians in Jericho. If we stick
Which
to
is today the occupied West Bank.
exactly, if we stick to a biblical story, Moses sent 12 spies to the land of Canaan, and 2 of those spies went back to the Israelites who were in the desert with a bunch of grapes, a fruit they didn't know. And I'm not lying, look at the logo of the Israeli Ministry of Tourism. It's those 2 spies carrying the grapes. So those grapes were ours. And tradition of wine, I come from Bethlehem.
So you're a Christian, you come from Bethlehem. Muslims are not known to drink wine. How is wine so popular in the Palestinian territories?
Bethlehem. Christianity started in Bethlehem. Wine is a ritual use, has a ritual use. So wine's always been in our culture. But Muslims do drink. The invention of distillery was made in Baghdad under Harun al-Rashid by Jabal bin Hayyan.
Yowza.
So
we're going back centuries now.
Exactly.
Let's bring it back to the present. I mentioned Gaza. You have just come back from Bethlehem on the West Bank. What did you see, feel, endure, experience, even though you're not in Gaza, of the war?
I have family in Gaza. I have friends in Gaza. In the West Bank, it is scary to say the least. People are worried. The settler attacks on Palestinians have increased. The land grabs, a few months ago, there was the largest land grab since 1967 that happened. When I was going around the market, because in my book, there's people that are in the book that are from the Bethlehem market, and I was giving people the book, and the sentence I kept hearing from everybody is, "Are we next?" And "Are we next" means what is happening in Gaza is going to happen to the rest of Palestine. For me, it's very difficult as a chef to even be cooking. And honestly, after the 7th of October, for the first few weeks, I couldn't even cook. There's a whole part of my people that are being forcibly starved. It is a man-made starvation. That has to stop. What's the future? They've survived, they're hiding, but I don't know what survival is. I have friends who had to leave, who managed to pay that horrendous fee and get out of Gaza. Some of them were not that lucky. What's really scary is none of the official speeches we're hearing from the Israelis are even acknowledging that we exist.
So you, with your book Bethlehem, with your restaurants, with the olive tree here, with the ancient keys that you decorated this restaurant, which mark the Nakba and Palestinians' lost homes, you are, I think, putting Palestinian culture and the Palestinian nation right there for everybody to see and acknowledge. Is that part of your mission?
No, thank you for actually even seeing this. I don't have to apologize for being Palestinian.
I'm not saying apologize. I'm saying make.
But I'm saying about the mission. If I were an Italian chef celebrating my history, it would be normal. As a Palestinian, very often I feel that I have to be apologizing for being Palestinian. So when I talk about lands we lost or oranges, I long for the oranges of Jaffa, which I never got to taste. But I grew up with stories of my family picking oranges and exporting their oranges to Europe, to the UK. My mission is to share with people the beauty of Palestine. My mission is to celebrate Palestine.
Tell me about some of the things you cooked that we have the pictures of.
We cooked a few recipes from the book. There's a grilled aubergine with tahini on it, nigella seeds, coriander seeds, dill, parsley, and a bit of olive oil, and pomegranate seeds. We did mafrousa, which means squashed in Arabic, and it's basically courgettes that have been baked, squashed, a bit of chili, zucchinis, olive oil and lemon. We did frika salad that has carrots and green cabbage leaves, young cabbage leaves in it, and sumac. And we did a slow cooked beef. That's my great grandmother's recipe. Those are in the book. The idea of the book was to have accessible Palestinian recipes. I keep telling people, if you get the book, I'll come and check in a year's time. It has to have tahina traced on it, and olive oil. It's something that has to be used because, our cuisine is disappearing. Our, our farmers' access to their land is being limited by settlers. The access to water is being, I mean, all of the reality of Palestine. I feel, and this is the first time, so you were asking about Gaza, and since Gaza, what I felt being back in Bethlehem, and that's the first time in my life I feel this, that we're actually wasting time and working with things that are disappearing. Some of the wine growers we work with have no more access to certain bits of their land. And that sense of urgency, the book started way before the 7th of October. It takes 2 years to make a book. But having it out now, I do feel we're trying to contribute a bit to saving this.
And
reality, which is present in a lot of places around the region, is the essence of how we live. When you cook for 5, you always have 3 portions somewhere in the bag. I remember as a kid going to my grandmother's house and, surprising her by like, oh, by the way, I picked up a few friends on the way, and she'd always find something to dish out. And that's true to everybody in the region. What we've seen in Gaza, when people were forced to move to Rafah before this last attack on Rafah, people were baking with makeshift stuff, but they were not baking for themselves. They were baking for everybody around them. So this commonality of getting people around food is essential. Where I am careful is when food is used to food wash the realities of occupation. Getting Palestinians and Israelis to cook together and trying to pretend the reality doesn't exist, that for me is scary, because there is a reality of the horror of what occupation means. And occupation is not only bombing Gaza, is me not being able to travel freely and having to cross into Jordan to get a flight to be here, while an Israeli chef living in Jaffa, in my land, drives for 45 minutes to Tel Aviv and is in London an hour later, well, 5 hours later. It takes me a full day to be here. That is the reality of occupation. It's the daily impact. Getting us around a table, and it's happened a lot in the past, and with Oslo, when there was this euphoric hope. I was part of the people who were hopeful, but we will finally be able to create peace, and a peace that's based on justice. It's based on repairing what has happened somehow. There was a lot of these initiatives around let's get together around a table. On the segregation wall in Bethlehem, there's a tag that says, make hummus, not war.
You don't like that art, do you, on that wall?
No. My real sentiment towards that specific tag, I would love to be able to take a tub of hummus and actually throw it at the wall, but I hate food waste, so I'll never do it. I don't like the art on the wall, of course. The wall is an ugly, grey, concrete wall. It shouldn't be made beautiful. It shouldn't be made fetishized. It shouldn't be made sexy. Disappear. It's separating Palestinians from Palestinians, but it's also separating Israelis from Palestinians. I grew up going to school in Jerusalem. I know Israelis. I grew up with Israeli teachers at school. I've put faces to people. I have Israeli friends. The younger generations, what do they know of each other? The Israelis see us as cheap labor and as violent terrorists. The Palestinians see the Israelis as soldiers and settlers, and we can't see beyond this. People who claim this is in the interest of security, I'm not a security expert, but I do think you and I get along because we're civil to each other, because we know each other. If we don't know each other, we wouldn't be able to get along. It's as basic as this.